The most recent One Piece flashback in the manga has left readers stunned with all types of new things being introduced into the story. You have some insane characters, some insane fights, some insane consequences, but most importantly, we have the introduction of the Davy Clan and Rocksteady Zebek's true name and lineage. This has left question marks all over the fandom. What is the Davy Clan? Who is Davy Jones? How are they connected to the Void Century? Why is Emu so bent on destroying this clan? There is an insane amount of questions surrounding this very lately introduced aspect to the story. However, after this most recent chapter, chapter 1163, I think I might have an inkling as to what the problem is with the Davy Clan in One Piece and why the world government is so bent on erasing them from history. If you end up enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be following this theory as One Piece continues to drop weekly chapters, so let's get into it. First, before we jump right into what the Davy Clan might actually be, let's talk about a previous theory that I've talked about on this channel twice that I kind of need to fix after this latest chapter. The quick recap that I said in these two videos, don't worry, you don't have to go watch them, is that I thought Davy Jones and Joy Boy were the exact same person. Essentially, the summary of it is Davy Jones and Joy Boy were the same person. Joy Boy was kind of his title, and his actual name was Davy Jones. And then you have characters like Rox, who is the direct blood lineage of Davy Jones, and characters like Roger, who's the inherited will of Davy Jones, split into two paths of the will of D. That was the theory I'd been rocking with up until this chapter. However, something in this chapter finally turned me off of this theory, and I now believe Davy Jones is a separate entity from Joy Boy. What turned me away from this theory is Emu's reaction to Davy Jones. We see that when Emu comes to God Valley to kill Rox, not only do they think that Rox is Davy Jones, they are also enraged and extremely set on destroying Davy Jones. The reason this makes me feel like Davy Jones is not Joy Boy is because, well, although Emu does have a ton of hatred for Joy Boy, you can go back and look at how Emu talks about the will of D in the presence of Cobra, and it feels like Emu is shrugging off the will of D. Although they probably wanted to erase everyone with this middle initial, they seem to not really care. It's not really a threat to them, or at least on the top of their mind. It's a matter from 800 years ago. However, on God Valley, Davy Jones and the Davy Clan was so dangerous that Emu came down to God Valley themselves to deal with this conflict. Despite Luffy having the Nika fruit and being the first inheritor of Joy Boy's will since Roger, Emu did not come to put an end to Luffy's journey at all, but at the single sight of a potential Davy Jones or Davy Clan member on God Valley, they immediately stepped out of their castle at Marijoa and came to the island. So, the differences in these two reactions to me says that Davy Jones is not Joy Boy. They are probably separate entities. So, now that we've got that recap out of the way, what is this late introduction to One Piece? How does it fit into everything we know about the Void Century already? And most importantly, why is it so dangerous to Emu and the world government? Let's talk about it. We learned directly from Rox that the Davy Clan is a clan from the Void Century that's been living very secretively away from the world government and kind of just getting by, and that their name holds very little authority in the black market still. It's a clan that has died out over the years, probably from persecution from the world government, and they've lost their impact on the world. But that doesn't really tell us anything. That's just Rox's understanding of what this clan is, and to be honest, that lines up with almost anyone who would exist from the Void Century. Of course, the world government would want to snuff these people out, because the world government obviously caused the Void Century, and their enemies were the people of D, so it all lines up here. However, when we jump to the God Valley incident, there are three key indicators that tell me that the Davy Clan is way more important than just a Void Century clan. Let's go over those three right now. The first and most important is this line from Saturn where he talks about something potentially awakening if the island continues to get destroyed. Obviously, he might not be talking about the Davy Clan here, but because the main focus of the God Valley incident was to eradicate the Davy Clan, in my mind, this potential awakening definitely has something to do with the Davy Clan, and the next few points back this up. The second indicator is when Emu says to Rox, "We need to get rid of this dangerous bloodline," when referring to Rox's wife and son Blackbeard running away. Emu directly says that the Davy Clan lineage is dangerous and a threat to the world government, and this lines up perfectly with the first indicator we just spoke about. If something was at risk of awakening, something so dangerous that Saturn himself of all people was worried about it, and then Emu themselves is saying that the Davy Clan is a dangerous lineage, obviously this awakening probably has something to do with the Davy Clan if they are such a threat to the world government. And the third and final indicator that the Davy Clan is way more important than just being a Void Century clan is that Emu thinks Davy Jones is still alive. When Emu comes down to handle things on God Valley, they mistake rocks for being Davy Jones. Now, a lot of people probably chalk this up to the same way that Emu calls Luffy Joy Boy and says, "Why did you let Joy Boy get away?" when Luffy escapes from Egghead. Yes, Emu does tend to refer to people in this kind of void sentry tense is what I like to call it. However, in this video, I want to talk from the lens as if Emu actually thought that Rocks was Davy Jones. So, we have our big three indicators. 1. Saturn is scared of something awakening on this island if the destruction continues. 2. Emu says that the Davy Clan lineage is a threat to the world government and is a dangerous bloodline. And 3. Davy Jones is potentially still alive because of what Emu says to Rocks. Let's take all of these three indicators that tell us that the Davy Clan is extremely important for the story and try and figure out why they are so important, why they're so dangerous to the world government, and what is special about them. In my mind, there are two immediate possibilities as to why the Davy lineage is so dangerous to the world government. We're going to discuss both of them. The first is that the Davy Jones lineage can obtain immortality. Now, I know this sounds extremely far-fetched, but hear me out here. First, it lines up with this something awakening that Saturn is talking about. Although I can't come up with the specific details that would cause the Davy lineage to awaken immortality, possessing the same immortality that Emu and the Gorosei have is definitely something that Saturn would want to prevent awakening on this island, and it also lines up with what was happening on the island. If all of this destruction was happening on God Valley, home of the Davy Clan, and Davy Clan members were being eradicated, I feel like those are probably some circumstances or criteria that would awaken this immortality in their lineage. Our second indicator, dangerous bloodline, again, same exact thing. Emu would absolutely call the Davy lineage a dangerous bloodline if they had access to tap into the same immortality that Emu has, because of course that would mean they could rival the world government. This absolutely checks out with Emu's wariness of this lineage. And third and most potent, if Davy Jones is actually alive somewhere, as Emu mistakes Rocks for, it would make sense because he would be immortal. Something I immediately thought of here is that when Vegapunk says in his broadcast that the 800-year war is still going on, it would absolutely make sense if there are figures from that war, like Davy Jones, still out there accessing immortality. Not only does Emu want to cut off any other Davy lineage members from gaining this ability, Emu is also looking for Davy Jones, who is immortal and still exists from the war 800 years ago. But if that's not your cup of tea, and that's a little bit too far-fetched for One Piece, let me talk about the second possibility as to why the Davy lineage is extremely important for One Piece and what's so special about them. I think it's possible that Davy Jones can awaken inside of someone who possesses this lineage. Sort of similar to how Joy Boy's inherited will has awakened in Luffy, obviously because of a fruit in that case. I feel like it's possible that this legendary figure, Davy Jones, might have the ability to awaken inside of those who possess his lineage, and almost possess them in a way. Once again, this absolutely lines up with the something awakening line from Saturn, because something literally would awaken inside one of the Davy Clan members if they saw their entire clan being eradicated on God Valley. It lines up with this line of dialogue, and additionally, it also checks out with Davy Jones being alive. Maybe Emu wasn't mistaking Rocks for Davy Jones in this panel. Maybe Emu assumed that Davy Jones had finally awakened in a member of the lineage, and he immediately went to kill Rocks because he thought Davy Jones had returned, and that's why he came down to God Valley himself. It was such a dire matter that Davy Jones had awakened inside the Davy Clan. However, the third piece of evidence for this theory about Davy Jones awakening in the Davy Clan members makes everything click even more. And that is, of course, the indicator we haven't talked about yet, Emu talking about the Davy Clan lineage being a dangerous bloodline. Now, of course, you could just chalk this line of dialogue to Emu saying it's a dangerous bloodline because they don't want Davy Jones to awaken inside one of its members. However, we can go a step further here. Let's look at this exchange of dialogue as if Emu was talking about something being dangerous for them, not for the world government, but dangerous to Emu personally. Now stay with me here, but Rocks was looking for 2 devil fruits specifically before the God Valley incident. Obviously, Rocks' goal was to kill Emu and become the king of the world, so I think it's fair to assume that these 2 devil fruits are fruits that Rocks thought would be capable of killing Emu. Who else has 2 devil fruits in One Piece? Obviously, there's only one answer. Blackbeard, the son of Rocks, someone who possesses the Davy lineage as well. If Davy Jones can awaken in people who possess the Davy Clan lineage, and Davy Jones was awoken inside of Blackbeard, allowing him to possess 2 devil fruits because there's 2 souls inside of his body, Emu saying that this bloodline is dangerous might literally mean this bloodline is dangerous to me personally, because if Davy Jones awakens in somebody, they can possess the 2 devil fruits required to kill me. This would just make so much sense for the theory that Blackbeard is going to kill Emu, not Luffy, because Davy Jones awakened inside of Blackbeard, and the lineage and the inherited will from 800 years ago manifested inside of him. He was able to earn the 2 fruits that could kill Emu, and finally succeed in maybe the promise that Rox was talking about in this chapter, killing Emu. After all, Rox says this line right in front of Emu, so maybe Davy Jones promised to kill Emu. This would also make sense for why Blackbeard cannot sleep, because maybe at night, because Blackbeard has 2 souls, Davy Jones takes over. I'm not going to go too far into it because there have been hundreds of theories as to Blackbeard having 2 souls, which is why he's able to have 2 devil fruits and why he can't sleep at night. However, I would push for the fact that this second soul is the will of Davy Jones, and it might have awakened on God Valley when Rox went to kill his own son, which would mean Emu Domi reversing Rox to go kill his own family inadvertently awakened the very thing the world government was afraid of, the will of Davy Jones inside of Blackbeard. I know it's crazy, but I feel like it is a very One Piece-esque theory, and it would explain a ton of things that were not only introduced in this flashback, but introduced throughout the entire story of One Piece. It just connects a lot of things together. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe. I'd love to have you on board as I release weekly videos as new chapters drop, and as new evidence for the Davy Clan's importance drops in the manga, I'm going to make a video following this theory, so I'd love to have you on board again. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.